Next on the show, Premier Confinement says Manitoba kids deserve to feel safe in schools. As you've been hearing this week and in the news this morning, the province is committing an extra $500,000 to help schools review their emergency safety plans. This comes after a child was grabbed by a stranger in the washroom at Darwin School last week. It's believed the man hid in a washroom stall after entering the school. Canoe is now directing all schools in Manitoba to implement controlled access plans and consider adding more school resource officers. Here's some of what he said at a media conference on Monday.
Nothing else matters unless our kids are safe. What happened at Darwin School last week should never happen. Every child deserves to grow up free from harm and free to be who they are. My thoughts are with this child and their family. I also want to speak to parents out there, including the parents of this young child. You are right to trust that your kids will be safe at school. You're making the right decision every day when you send them to class so that they can grow and learn and that they can reach their full potential. And the expectation that when you send your child to school that they will be safe is a fundamental guarantee that our society must uphold and our government must make good on. Immediately, we've given money to the Manitoba School Boards Association for every school in Manitoba to look at their safety plans and do what needs to be done in light of what happened last week. We're encouraging schools to implement controlled access if they haven't already. And we're approaching this in a way that I think understands that the way a school in Wawanesa or Wiboden responds to what happened last week might be different than a way a school in Winnipeg responds. We're also going to work with communities and with law enforcement across the province to support the presence of school resource officers in Manitoba, as well as other security options that fit local needs.
Now, while some schools in Manitoba have school resource officers, not all of them do, and some have said they're ineffective. A report by the Louis Riel School Division in 2021, you might recall, found that having officers in schools led to increased risks and feelings of fear and discrimination for some students, specifically among Black and Indigenous students and people of color. Now, Devon Clunis is a former Winnipeg police chief. He held that position from 2012 to 2016. He was also a school resource officer for 5 years. He worked in 52 different schools. He's here to weigh in. You might have heard a bit of him on the news, but he's here live via Zoom to talk more. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Marcy.
So what do you think of the idea of adding more resource officers in schools? You heard there what the Premier was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me say fully, I wholeheartedly agree with the comments by the Premier. And I think it's a very profound stance that he's taken because we know in the recent past, people have just not been able to come out and make such a statements. I personally agree with having school resource officers in schools. And it's not just about having officers in schools. What we're talking about here really is the social safety network that we want to put in place for young people. We're talking about really a fundamental shift in society. Police officers, teachers, parents, all of those entities are here to help create a healthy learning environment for our young people. And you know, the rhetoric in regards to it being a disproportionately negatively impacting Black and Indigenous students, I think it's something that we really have to look at. We certainly don't want any sector of our society navigating school life or society being fearful of the police. And I think the best place for us to start building that real healthy relationship is in elementary school, in high school. So this is a really important step for us to take.
It's interesting because, that report that we were citing, the Louis Riel School Division in 2021, finding officers in schools led to increased risk, feelings of discrimination. I know you've shared before that when you were younger, you were afraid of police officers. What kind of an impact did relationships with police have on you then?
Oh, a significantly positive one. As I said, typically what I would see in terms of the relationship between people like myself and police was what I saw on television. And think about how many young people are being socialized today. It was when I finally had the opportunity to sit down and speak with a police officer face to face, I realized what I was seeing or what I was hearing was not the truth. So it really is important for us to sit down and have these conversations. Now, you've mentioned that one report. I can bring forward some very robust reports that have been done across this country that say otherwise. So I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to sit down, have a very meaningful conversation, have a dialogue, determine what do we want for our young people, what do we want for society moving forward, and what is the best way that we can construct something that will work for all of us. As I said, we know without a shadow of a doubt currently what we have in place is not working. It is time for us to come back to the table, reevaluate, and look at the outcomes that we're trying to achieve and devise an SRO program that's going to meet all of our needs. And I know that's wholeheartedly possible.
Some people might be thinking that if there were an officer in the school, in this case, the case, that led us to have the conversation this morning, that effectively this still could have happened. I wonder what your thoughts are on making the school environment safer overall, because there are other things that they could look at, right, in terms of enhancing those safety plans.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I can't really comment on this specific incident because I don't know what type of measures they have in place at Darwin School. Certainly, they're going to be examining that. But as I said, this is not just a conversation about police officers in schools. It is about the type of society that we're trying to build. And as I said, the whole mindset that a student or any member of our community needs to be afraid of the police is something that's really challenging as I look to the future of a society that we want. I want every single person in our society to realize the police are here to protect you. The best place for us to start is with young people because, as I said, for us to say to children, you need to be fearful of the police. Imagine that. They grow into teenage years, into adulthood. At what point do you think suddenly they're going to realize that if I'm in need, I can reach out to that police officer? We're setting ourselves up for a very difficult, very negative, very destructive paradigm moving forward by telling young people that they need to be fearful of the police. I think that's a fundamental shift that we need to make. We need to look at this. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about your experience. I apologize for interjecting there, but what were your interactions like with students? Can you share maybe a story of an interaction that stayed with you?
Thrilled to share that with you, Marcy. Nothing but incredibly positive experiences. I would have just a throng of kids consistently following me down the halls. Let me tell you this, the number of adults I get now who come up to me and said, "You were my SRO. Here is the impact that you had on me." This past summer, I had a gentleman invited me to his son's graduation from grade 12. I was this gentleman's SRO. Now his child is graduating, and because of the impact I had on him as his SRO, he wanted me to be there. So you talk about intergenerational impact, positive impact. Nothing but positive impacts that I've had with young people. And I consistently hear from adults, here's the impact you had as my SRO. That's what we need to focus on.
It's interesting that at the beginning of the conversation, you were saying you wholeheartedly agree with what the Premier said. We played a clip of what he shared with the province on Monday. But you said that you were applauding him, and please forgive me if I don't get this exactly quoted, but for saying something that before wouldn't have been said out loud. What did you mean by that?
Absolutely. I'm going to be very frank with you. This pull away from SROs happened significantly in our country after the tragic events with George Floyd in Minneapolis. And it became a very political issue. People just didn't have the courage to stand up and say, no, we appreciate what happened. It was atrocious, but we can't simply paint all SROs, nor can we paint police officers with that same brush. And it became a political issue. And so I do applaud our Premier for standing firm and not abiding by political correctness, but saying what needs to be said and doing the right things in the best interest of our young people and of community and of the broad society. We need more elected officials to have that type of courage.
Thank you for your time this morning, Devon Clunis. Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You too. That's Devon Clunis, a former Winnipeg police chief. He held that position from 2012 to 2016. He was also, as I mentioned, a school resource officer for 5 years. He worked in 52 different schools.